Welcome to the shop. Today we are going to build a door. We just finished up our series on building and renovating a tiny house, and I built some really cool custom doors. They're kind of wacky and small, and I thought, well, it might be really awesome to show people how I would build a normal size door for any door in your house. And normally I would build a door like that out of some rough sawn material, and I would plane it down. This piece is pretty crooked. But we're not going to do that because most people don't have access to this kind of material like I have in the shop. So we're going to use something that looks more like this, which is just a standard piece of 1x material that you can buy at any hardware store or Lowe's or Home Depot. So now we're going to go down to the store, we're going to buy our material, and we're going to bring it back here and make this door. Here we are at the lumber yard. I'm sure they have plenty of material. We're gonna go hunt some 1x12s. That is gonna be my material of choice today, and I'll tell you why as we get into it. That we're gonna use 1x12s and cut it down into different pieces that we need, even though we don't really need this full width for any particular thing. But typically, the 1x12 is gonna be a better quality board because it came out of a bigger tree. And as a matter of fact, the grain orientation in this 1x12 is going to be more desirable for building a door because it's going to be more stable because it's going to be primarily quarter sawn. And we'll show you those details back in the shop. I'm going to have a seat here because I want to look at these boards and find the best ones for this project. Now, sitting at the end of the board is really the best place to tell if it's good or not. If you're out in the middle, in the front of the boards, you can see if they're pretty or not, but as far as seeing if they're straight, you're not gonna have a very good vantage point. So I'm looking for a board that's straight, not curved in the left or the right, or side bowed. I don't really care if it has scuffs on it because we're gonna sand or plane these down, so that is not much of a factor. Like right here, see it's dirty and it's scuffed up, but I don't care about that. I care if it's straight and flat. Let me show you a great example. This board at face value looks great. It looks like a beautiful board, but as I turn it up on edge and sight down the board, and I'm gonna see if you can get the camera on it right there so you can see what I'm seeing. It has a lot of waves in it, kind of. It's not really that straight. And since we're not gonna be jointing these, we're not really gonna have an opportunity to straighten this board. We will make it thinner, but that won't make it straighter. So again, picking the best boards that you can get is one of the most important parts of this. That one's cracked. Uh-oh, somebody caught me. I'll just slip it on in, and that'll be all right.
Almost got the side of your head on that.
There we go.
Thank you.
Sorry, I folded it 10 times already.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Hey, if you come back in here and do another one of your sawhorse videos, hopefully by then my beard will be a lot longer.
Mm-hmm. I need to make some more sawhorses. I'm out. Hey, will you hang this up over there? There you go, you got it. There's a little spot. You see I drew a little pencil line on the wall? You see it? Straight there, right there. You'll find it. You'll see it. There you go. Keep looking. There it is. Oh, it's backwards. There you go. Now that's right. In preparation here, I'm cleaning off my work table, which, by the way, is very flat and very heavy. But the good thing about it is whatever I glue together on this surface will be flat, and I know that because I've glued a bunch of things here and they've all turned out really nice. So to do a project like this, making a door where the actual flatness of it is very important, you will need a flat something to build on. It can be temporary, just a few sawhorses and a piece of plywood would work just fine, but make sure that it actually is sitting flat. We're going to talk a little bit about the board we're going to be using and why I think it's a great piece of material to use for this project. Here is a 1x12, and the grain in it is probably going to have a center mark right in the center, but then the grain rings are gonna go like this. And then primarily, we're gonna have this kind of grain on both sides. And that's great because this is a very stable type of grain. This section right here, known as quarter sawn or rift sawn, the closer it gets to the center and gets to be at about a 45-degree angle, that will be called rift sawn. It's a great cut of wood. Think about it like you're going to buy a steak at the grocery store, and this is the fillet right here. So that's the best cut. I would not really want to buy a 1x4 and use it because it is probably going to be mostly like this, and that would be called flat sawn. There's nothing wrong with it, but this is more stable and more likely to stay flat and straight. The first step to building this door will be taking a 1x12, basically cutting it in half and flipping these two sides together so that we end up with a thick piece of wood because the door is thicker than our material. So we'll have grain like this, and then we'll have another piece glued to it just like that. It'll make a really strong piece. As much as I would love to just start building this door right away, I feel like I have to keep explaining why we're doing what we're doing, and that is for your benefit so you can learn about woodworking. Now, you might be tempted to think you should use a piece of 2x material for the door frame because it's already thick enough. The thickness of our door is going to be 1 3/8 inches, and this is 1.5 inches. So you're just like 1 or 2 planer passes away from it being the right thickness. Why would we not use that and go for 2 thinner type pieces like this that we're going to glue together and make one solid piece? Well, this is going to be a laminated piece of 2 pieces, and it will be, again, stronger, straighter, stay more stable over time. Now, also, this is a really important thing. Trim material, like the 1x12 shelf board that we're going to use, not only is it available everywhere and they're pretty straight and good quality, they are kiln dried to a drier dryness. Now, we have not tested. Actually, we might pull out the moisture meter and poke that wood and find out how dry it is, but your framing material is dried down to a maximum of 19% for framing. Again, that's a maximum required by the building industry. Even though framing material that you can buy at the store does not look wet, does not feel wet, it probably has too high of a moisture content to be usable for a job like this. And the shelf boards, again, are drier. We're going to test that though. Let's find out with the moisture meter. Let's check our shelf boards here with the moisture meter. I'm going to press that in there real good. It's jumping around a little bit. 8%. That is completely acceptable for what we're going to do here. All right, here's our door. Looks pretty, doesn't it? We're going to make it 80 inches tall, which is a standard door height. The most common height, I'll say. We'll make it 30 inches wide because that also is the most common, say, door size for a bedroom or something. All right, there's our outer dimensions. As far as the members of the door, the vertical pieces on the sides, ooh, that's a little shaky. Not exactly to scale here. We're going to make these 4 inches wide. We're going to have a top piece that will also be 4 inches wide. We'll do a middle piece, but really it's not in the middle. That also will be 4 inches wide. And then we'll do a piece at the bottom. I'm going to go 8 inches wide on that. So that pretty much dimensions out all of the framework. Now these panels in between, we'll have to glue up some boards for that, and they will be a little wider than the space in between here. All right. We're actually going to start cutting some material here, so I'm going to cut it over length. The door is 80 inches tall, so I'm going to add 6 inches probably to most of my measurements to allow for some planer snipe on each end, which we'll get to. I have a crack in the end of this board, so I'm going to just mark it there, and you'll notice that is not a straight line, and it does not matter for what we're doing now because we have 6 inches extra length, so that doesn't matter. All right, so I'm going to put my tape on 86 right there, come on down to this end, and say cut it right there. Now this one board will get ripped in half and glued together and make one side of the door. So this will be one piece. I'll do the same for another, and then I'll take the shorter pieces that are cut off and cut those down the middle on the table saw, glue them together, and that'll make either the top piece or the middle piece or the bottom. I'm going to make my cross pieces 36 inches long, so I will have pieces that are 86 and 36. I'll cut them all the same. So check out how terrible these cuts look. I mean, really, you can't get a lot worse than that. But I will say it doesn't matter at all. So one thing I would love to be able to teach people is when or how to use your precision when it's necessary, and when to do things fast when it just doesn't matter, like in this case. We're used to afternoon thunderstorms. That's the norm. Okay, but when it rains in the morning, I'm like, it's a good show. What is going on?
Yes.
So anyway, it's great today. You like my shirt?
I do.
I'm going to draw what I call a story stick here to mark out the elevations of the door components so that I can know how tall the panels will be and so that I can know how long to cut them right now. I hope that made sense. So I'm going to start by drawing the top of the door. That's our 4-inch top piece. And then I got to go all the way down to the bottom at 80 inches, and that's going to be our bottom. I know that I'm going to come back 8 inches. That's our bottom board. And then I will tell you that the door handle typically is mounted at 36 inches. So I'm going to mark 36 inches right there, and I'll put a C that indicates the center line. And then I know I'm going to have a 4-inch wide piece of wood right there. And that is all the horizontal members. So now I can measure for the panel. Okay, there's 32. Oh, is that backwards for you or me? I was going to draw it backwards. Is that a 3? And then a 2. That's 5. Let's go for this one. No, that's the same way. Wow, have you ever tried to write upside down? That's 5. All right, I got to do this. I'm upside down and backwards. Okay, it's not that way, it's this way. Is that a 2? Is that a Z? That's the one. 32 inches. Okay. As far as I can tell, that was the last piece I needed to cut for the door, and this is my waist. So out of 4 12-foot shelf boards, I have this, plus one more piece about this length. So I guess we got the right amount of material. I'm starting to get really excited now because I can see this door in my mind and it's coming together already. We're going to talk about the thickness of 2 pieces of shelf board. This is right at 1.5 inches, just as you would expect for 2 3/4 inch thick pieces, although I will say not all 3/4 material is 3/4. So don't be surprised if it's a little bit different. Our door is going to be 1 3/8 inches though, so this is too thick, and that's great. We're going to glue them together before we plane anything down so that when we do our glue job, we're going to be clamping on this material really hard. There's going to be glue squeezing out. It's going to be a little messy, and I don't want to have the final thickness already achieved before that happens. In other words, what I'm trying to say is after we're done gluing and clamping and this gets really nasty, we're going to send it through the planer, revealing a brand new, fresh layer of wood that's going to be perfect. And so I don't have to stress about all these pencil marks that I've got all over the place and all these scuffs from the store. It doesn't even matter right now. All right. Now, I don't want to get too crazy here with all the grain orientation and things like that, but these 2 cutoffs right here have made me realize something I need to point out. All right. Which way do you glue the 2 boards together? I'm going to say it probably doesn't matter, with the exception of we need to oppose any bowing that each one has. So you can see these boards are nice and tight together. You would think that's great, but I can tell that there's a cup in these boards. If I flip them around, you'll see that right there. There's a gap in the middle. So this is the way I would glue it to where when I clamp it, it will close up and the 2 opposing bows will cancel each other out and we'll end up with a flat piece that's really strong instead of a curved piece that's really strong. The next thing to do here is to rip all of these other boards in half. So what is half of 11 1/4? I think it's 5 5/8, and that's plenty over width here. 5 5/8 is really close. So I'll set the saw to that and cut the rest of my pieces. That's good. Remember that every time you cut a piece of material and you're wasting some part of it, it's best to waste a defective part if you can. This edge is messed up, so I'm going to be sure that that is my waste and not a part that I keep. Now we can lay our pieces out again. I'm going to leave that 3 inches approximately of waste on the top and on the bottom. And we're gonna kind of see what this thing is gonna look like. I'm pretty excited to see it. There we go, looks about right. And then our crossbar, which is 36 inches up from the bottom, there we go. Looks pretty nice. Now we could just screw this together and call it a day. What do you think? I'm gonna start gluing here in a second. Something that I do to almost every glue bottle I buy is I take that little cap off, and then this little part right there, that part goes in the cap and seals the bottle off while you're not using it, but it also restricts the glue from coming out a little bit. So I like to have plenty of glue coming out without really struggling too hard, and that will really do the job. In preparation for gluing here, I'm sighting my long pieces, and I'm gonna put them to where the bowing or any curves of the boards oppose each other and will straighten out when they're clamped and glued together. In order to save clamps and actually end up with a straighter result on these, I'm gonna clamp all the pieces that are similar together at the same time like this, and there will only be glue in between the layers that I want to stick. So these will all get clamped at one shot right there, and then this down here, these both will get clamped together. It'll help average out the straightness really. For this set of boards right here that will make that bottom piece, I can't really do that, and it's very wide. I don't have clamps that'll reach out to the middle, so I might take some pieces of scrap wood and lay across here and clamp it to apply pressure all the way across the middle of the board. There's 2, 4. I'm gonna do one more. I'm gonna use a paint roller to apply this glue. You can see how many times this one has been used. I think this is an excellent way to do it. I always like to put a little more glue than you might think, and I'm gonna actually apply glue to both surfaces here. Look at that, see how fast and easy that comes out? Woo, might just do a little more. All right, here we go. See how fast this is? I mean, we're talking like this is a 30-second job to get this glue applied. And I know that it's gonna squeeze out and make a mess, and I am cool with that. If it doesn't squeeze out, I sort of wonder, did I put enough glue in there? And I don't know if you'll ever know the answer to that, so I don't risk it. I just go for plenty of glue. And this is a lot of surface area to cover right here, and it's a lot of surface to squeeze with the clamps. And those cross pieces that I just cut are really gonna help distribute that squeezing, clamping action that we need. I'm gonna do a really good job of making sure every inch of this is covered with glue. That is very important, so don't skimp too much on your rolling time. I'm perfectly happy with that. I'm gonna hang my roller off the side because I don't want it all over the table, even though I'm gonna get it all over the table now. So let's go ahead and start by, I'm just gonna hang one edge off right here, and that'll give me a place to start. I'm gonna grab a clamp or 2 and just go ahead and get with it. There we go. Now on the end here, I don't know if I really need this extra piece of wood here. It's called a clamping caul. I don't know how you spell that, but that's what it is. And you can see these boards are really wanting to skate around on me. Just the slightest angle of the clamp will send it sliding away. And so I'm just very lightly gonna have those clamps on there. They're barely on there, falling off actually. Until I get a few more clamps on here, it is gonna be sliding around, and I wanna do my best to have the edges of the board aligned. Oh, that one's glued together from the last job. And if I really was good at keeping my maintenance up, I would clean all these after each job, but I don't know anybody that does that. Okay, we're gonna hopefully also get this glue to tack up and start sticking. This is a little bit of a time sensitive job right here. When you've got wet glue, it can be a little bit stressful if you're not prepared to do all the clamping. And I gotta point out something here. I'm using all of the exact same kind of clamps, and you can see that this is sitting nice and flat on the table. And that's really nice, because if this was sitting twisted, it might want to apply that twist to the workpiece, which we really don't want. So, all right, I've got the edges and they are aligned. That's really good. Now we can just add our other two blocks and the ones that go in here, and we're good to go. All right, I actually prefer these ones with the rubber handle. They're a little easier to tighten. I'm really not going to apply any serious clamping pressure until all the clamps are in place. That way, if I need to move something around a little bit, I don't spend a bunch of time undoing clamps and redoing them. So just snugging them up so they don't go anywhere. Boom, now they're all in place. I can just kind of start going around, getting some pressure, and you might see that the glue will start squeezing out. It really should squeeze out a lot. And I always keep a wet rag nearby so that I can wipe the table off before I start my next process here, because I don't want all that to get smeared all over something else. Although it's not going to matter, because we're going to plane all these boards off, so no big deal. All right, I'm tightening these down to what I think is the maximum clamping pressure that these clamps are designed for. And how do I know what that is? I don't, but when I see this part of the, I don't know what this bar is called, maybe it's a bar. When I see it start to bow and bend, I know that I'm about at what the limit is of what kind of force these can apply. Nice and snug. I'm just going round and round. As the glue is maybe escaping a little bit, they might allow me to snug up a little bit more. I call that maxed out. This piece can go somewhere else for a little while. Clean up in aisle 9. Made a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. We'll just wipe it up real fast, and we're ready to go again. I'm ready to glue these other pieces now, and you can see I put some spacers underneath because I need to be able to slide my clamps under and clamp from both sides, just like this. It is important, I will say, that both, or actually all three of these pieces are the exact same height, that they're not different size pieces of wood. Let's get crazy with the glue again. I'm going to pretend that this is one board. That way it doesn't really matter if I get glue, whatever. All right, there we go. I think that's enough. That's almost the whole bottle gone, by the way. Just gonna repeat the process here. Ooh. Excuse me. All right, there's a little more in there, but I don't have time to wait for that. So, coming in with bottle number 2. I already used the whole bottle of glue. Don't be scared to use it. There we go. All right, like that. Wham bam, moving a little bit fast. Again, you know, this is a little time sensitive, but you can read on the bottle of glue, it'll have the open time, I think it's called. And that's just simply, or the working time maybe. That's how much time you have before the glue starts to set. In this case, we're working fast, but we're not anywhere near to running out of time. And this is not a really highly precise job, so the pressure is pretty low, I'll say. That's a lot of glue. That makes me happy. All right, I love it. Slap that one together. Boom. And these two can start to go together. The little guys here will be very easy compared to that. Again, when I fold these open like this, I'm always making sure I keep them in a pair the way that I align them to start with, because it'd be really easy to accidentally flip them around and lose your orientation and therefore lose the opposing nature of the bow that you're trying to make this piece straight. That was a little jumbly. I hope that made sense. All right. We'll have that. Last one. I thought that would be good. Didn't work. You know what a wise man once said? You can never have too many clamps. I think he was right. I just about had a problem. Look at this. I have my clamp all the way opened. It is literally barely long enough. All right. Now, I don't need any clamping calls on this because the depth of the clamp can reach at least halfway down the material, and I'm gonna come in from the other side or the bottom. I have to open these all the way. I can actually leave this sitting on the table here, which is nice. So I can reach from both sides just fine. Again, I'm just barely gonna squeeze pressure because these boards are prone to wanna slip on each other because the glue is so slippy. Now I'm gonna just head on down and start adding clamps everywhere. If you're wondering how many clamps you should put, I would say, how many do you have? And that's how many you should put. You can figure out ways to distribute your clamping pressure if you have not enough clamps. And if you have too many, I'd say just keep putting them on there. And because this is soft wood, these clamps will make a dent in the wood where I'm putting so much pressure on here. And that is not a problem for this project, again, because we're gonna plane each piece on both sides and it will get rid of that. Right here, I bet we'll get some squeeze out. Yeah, this glue is literally running out, but again, that doesn't bother me. Kind of like it. I think this is a water-based glue, and since it has water in it, we want it to dry or cure, and I think 24 hours is the best thing to do so that you know it's dry. All of the door frame pieces are glued up, good to go. The last thing we're gonna do is take these other flat panels that will be the panels inside the frame, and I'm gonna actually rip them in half and straight edge all of these factory edges on the table saw and then re-glue them together. By breaking them down into smaller pieces, we can eliminate some of the cupping in these wider boards, and it will make a more stable panel for the long term. After we glue these panels together, they're gonna be about 24 inches wide, and that is too wide to fit through my planer. I have a 20-inch wide planer, and that's pretty big, but it won't fit. So we need to thin each of these pieces down to a 1/2 inch thick, and then glue it together, and we'll end up with a 1/2 inch thick panel. This is really nice. We have our pieces thin down here, and each one has near perfect quarter sawn grain. That is gonna make a great panel. I'm really excited about that. Now I took these to a little below a 1/2 inch because I know I'm gonna use the table saw to cut a 1/2 inch wide groove. So does a 1/2 inch wide board fit in a 1/2 inch wide groove? I don't know. I'd rather this be just the touchiest thinner. And it's so small of a difference I can't even tell unless I add like 4 of them together here and measure up. It's about a 1/16 under with 4 pieces. So I know that I'm slightly under a 1/2. If I try to measure one, it actually looks like a 1/2. I put 4 of them together and you can see I'm short of 2 inches. So I know that it's less than a half. It's time to glue up these panels, and guess what? This part of the door is in the way and I need to move it, so I think I can pick it up. It's pretty heavy. A lot of glue still coming out. I'm gonna get a little bit messy, but that's okay. I'm just gonna set it on the floor. This is a big mess. It's easier to get it off now than if that much glue dries on the table. So we're gonna give it a good wipe down here. That's a lot of glue. Isn't that nice? Time to glue a panel. Again, I'm gonna use 2 boards right there to set the pieces on. I'll start with the small panel. We're gonna lay the pieces out here and just check the fit up of the edges. They may not be perfect as far as edge to edge, but they'll probably be good enough. And I will tell you, these edges were just made straight and square on a table saw, because most people have a table saw. We didn't even use the jointer, and I don't think we need to. I am checking the fit from board to board to see if the edges are lining up nice and tightly. And since they are each not perfect, you can see right here, look, I've got this point where it's rocking, and that's really terrible. But it just so happens if I flip this board over, it fits pretty nice. So you should maybe flip these in combinations that work better. I think I'm pretty happy with this right now, so let's put some glue on the edges. I'm gonna turn them up like this for the gluing. I'm gonna use less glue on this because we already have our thickness achieved, and because of that, I'm not gonna be planing these. I don't wanna get glue all over the surface, so let's be a little bit more careful. Here we go. I'm gonna use my finger on the edge of the board as a little guide to keep the bottle of glue running straight. I'll show you how that works here, just like this. Pretty controlled amount of glue coming out. That's pretty nice. Okay, I'm gonna do that on all of these before I do anything else. I'm gonna get a nice bead of glue that is just as much as I need and not a whole lot more, because I am gonna have to clean up my squeeze out on this, and I don't wanna have a huge mess to fix up. One more. I need a little extra squeeze on that one. There we go. All right. Now, I just take 1 swipe down here, maybe 2, just to spread the glue out. There we go. And again, we are gonna have squeeze out. That's totally fine. Okay. Now, something you'll notice about this is that we don't have a lot of surface area, meaning the part where the glue is really not wide at all. So that means I don't need as much clamping pressure. You could really actually clamp this too hard and squeeze all the glue out, and that would be called starving the glue joint, where you squeeze it all out. All right, this is my favorite part right here, just flipping the pieces down and butting them together. It's just kind of fun to do, I think. At least for me it is. There we go. All right, I'm gonna align the ends nice, and I'm gonna go ahead and use some clamping cauls. These are just scrap pieces of wood right here. I've just about used all my clamps up. I can't believe it in here. I'm gonna have to use some wacky, I don't know what that is. I actually didn't think ahead enough to get my other clamps prepared here, so we're gonna just stick that on there. It doesn't take a lot of clamping force to hold these edges aligned, so I can use these wacky clamps right there. There we go. Oh, wow. There we go. You can see these edges now are all out of alignment just because I aligned those edges, because these boards are not perfect, and that's okay. But we'll just show you what that does for it when the clamp goes on there. It's gonna really unify these edges. And one benefit to having an overlength panel here is that this piece of wood is going to stick. It's going to get glued down, and I'm okay with that because I'm going to trim off the length shorter than this, so I don't even care if this stays on there permanent. Like, I don't even care. I have a set to put in the middle too. Check this out. See how that board's wanting to rise up a little bit right there? I would like it to be flat and flush so I don't have to sand a huge area. So I think if I put another set right in the middle, I believe it'll flatten that out. And you'll notice I'm doing this before I apply any clamping pressure this way. And that is important because once you squeeze it tight, it's really hard to realign these. So I'm doing my alignment before I add my clamping pressure. I'm gonna try some other weird clamps that I don't use very frequently, except for when I get desperate. Like right now, feeling pretty desperate. Let's see, get those lined up, get that on there, get a little squeeze on that. That did pretty nice, I think. It is still not absolutely perfect, and that's okay because we are gonna run a sander across this. I need to use some longer, bigger clamps. These are Bessie clamps, I really like them. And I'm gonna actually put them in from the bottom. There we go, and we're only gonna use 2 clamps. Brett, I know your arms are getting tired from holding the camera in one spot, but trust me, it's all gonna be worth it. Now, the water is not gonna hurt this wood at all. Even though we talked about moisture content and all that in the beginning, this amount of water will evaporate off of here in no time, and it will be like it never happened. Oh, isn't that nice? Look at that. See, board to board, sometimes you can't even tell where the joint is because we have such similar grain pattern in each of these boards. So these boards all complement each other very well. If you threw a flat sawn board in the middle of this, it would catch your eye and be a little bit obnoxious looking. Because it would have such a different grain characteristic, it would look out of place, actually. So that's another good reason to use all the same kind of 1x12s like we used. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this middle alignment board because it has glue under it, and I definitely don't want that one glued to the panel here. So I'm gonna clean very carefully all of those spots where the glue has squeezed out. And I'm feeling great about this side of the door. The other side has to be cleaned also. So we're gonna just flip it over. Ooh, that's a problem. Well, that'll happen in a shop this size. I'm gonna set it over here because I don't want to set it back on these boards that have glue on them. And you can see this is really nice. See the space under my clamps? I kind of did that on purpose. Otherwise, I'd have to kind of move the clamps around a little bit to get my rag under there to get the glue cleaned out. And this right here is definitely time sensitive. So I'm kind of doing it quickly and immediately after I got all the clamps in place. I wouldn't want to wait 10 minutes even because this glue will start to harden and become very difficult to remove. So this is a little tedious, you know, this part of it I can't say is real fun, but it is necessary and you will thank yourself later. You can see I'm using my pinky here as a little straight edge guide so that I get this bead of glue basically perfectly centered on the edge of the board, which is only 1/2 of an inch wide, but you can see I can get a really nice straight line there. Pretty happy about that. It would be difficult to freehand this and get a straight line without using the edge of the board as a guide. This is starting to be pretty good. Whoa, a little much there. Okay. Ha! They're all coming down. Didn't go as planned there, but it doesn't really matter. Amazing. I actually had to loosen these clamps. Oh, did you hear that popping? I hope you heard it. I clamped these down too tight and it was actually holding that gap in between the boards so that when I squeezed this, it didn't actually want to close up until I relieved a little bit of that pressure. So I kind of bounced back and forth, loosening and tightening and then adding pressure here on these two clamps. I see a nice bead of squeeze out on every joint, full length. So I'm not going to squeeze it any tighter right now. I'm just going to go ahead and wipe this panel down like I did the other one. As I'm cleaning this one up here, I'm going to say, why do we need to build a door? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't need a door. Brett, do you need a door? No, he's shaking his head no. He doesn't need a door. The reason we're doing this, of course, is just to show you how you could do it or how I would do it if I had to. And I actually have built several custom doors in houses where they wanted it made of a special material that you couldn't buy at the store, like maple or cherry, or maybe it was a special size. And those are some of the reasons why I would make a custom built door. Otherwise, it's an awful lot of work when you can go buy one at the store for less money probably than you would spend to build one like this. So those are some reasons: custom size, or maybe a custom material, or maybe you just want to see if you can do it. And that's a pretty good reason if you ask me. Okay, well, now we have all of our pieces glued together. That's a big step, and actually it took several hours to do this. And I was hoping to make one video only of how to build this door. I get the feeling the first half is gonna be a video by itself, and I think we'll show you the other part of building the door in another video so that we have time to do it. Thanks for sticking around. I hope you learned something. I had a great time. We'll see you soon. Welcome to the shop. Did it beep? It didn't beep. Is it going? Okay, it's going. Good. Did you going? It didn't beep.